Okay, so it is 2021 and John and I are on the road visiting clients and doing some vacationing and things like that. So we are running a couple of reruns and we've picked our most popular episodes and we're doing an update on some of the ones that have really stood the test of time and that we think are really timely to run again and that it's been a while since you've seen them before. So this episode on digital marketing strategies is actually really good because it talks about short-term strategies and long-term strategies, which is really important because you want to have some short-term strategies that work quickly and get you results fast, but you also want long-term strategies that are going to be more cost-effective in the long run. So a lot of folks come to us and have an immediate need to advertise an event or something. That would be a short-term strategy. People that want to get to the point where they don't have to put as much time and energy into advertising in the long term, and that want to really build up that word of mouth and have a long-term strategy. Those are the things that we would do in the long-term category. So this is a great episode to listen to. A couple of things that have changed since we aired this episode. In the arena of the short-term strategies, social channels come and go. So you'll hear us talk about things like Periscope and, things like that we may not have heard of in a long time. The best way to combat or to deal with the fact that social channels come and go is to have 3 or 4 of them that you're testing all the time. It doesn't take that much more energy and time to publish on 4 social media channels as it does to publish on 1. So what I suggest is that you publish on your own media first. So that would be like your blog or your YouTube channel or something along those lines, but also make sure that you keep those files in case a social media channel disappears. So if Facebook becomes the next Periscope or MySpace, you'll still have LinkedIn and Twitter and some others that are going on where your material is still there and your community is still there. So keep an eye on that and, be aware of the fact that those social channels have their highs and lows and they continue to evolve. That's in the short-term strategy category. In the long-term strategy category, keep in mind that SEO and paid Google ads have become a competitive necessity for some folks like charter and flight schools. And that was not necessarily the case in 2018 when we first did this episode. So if you are in one of those categories that's super competitive, keep in mind that what used to be really great additional marketing is now kind of table stakes. Everybody is doing it or they're not really going to be successful in that field. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is that growing a community is still the most cost-effective long-term marketing activity. And whether that's creating your own user group, creating a Facebook group, creating a LinkedIn group, creating some kind of online or in-person or both way for your customers to talk to each other and to talk to you and to bring new customers into the fold is really the most credible way of doing long-term, low-budget, super successful marketing in the aviation industry. Your best customers are always your best salespeople. So with those caveats, we'll go ahead and start the episode. Welcome to episode number 157, Business Aviation Digital Marketing Strategies.
Great.
So I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you ladies and gentlemen out there sell more products and services in the aviation world.
Absolutely. So this episode is brought to you by our digital marketing product. And that's one of our full service products where we do this for you. So if you go through this episode and think, this is all very nice, but it sounds like a heck of a lot of work, this product is for you. Right. And, there are some things that you can do that will probably make some improvements. So this will be an episode that you're going to enjoy, even if you make a small improvement. But if you want to make a big improvement or want us to do all the work for you,
we can do that.
We can do that, right? So our digital marketing product, we get into the weeds of all of this and figure out what digital marketing tools and strategies would work best for your strategy, goal, and audience. We also make sure that you're in control of it. You're not going to lose control of your brand or anything else because we have an approval management process to make sure that you're in the driver's seat.
Yep.
As much as you want to be.
And you can do anything you want with the stuff after we make it for you.
Absolutely. And it all becomes your intellectual property. It's work for hire, right?
Of course.
Okay. And then we also do monthly reports and have office hours where we go over it with you and answer any questions you have. So you're not just throwing money over the wall and hoping for the best, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we talked about this last week, but in case this is your first episode with us, welcome. But there are 3 really vital keys to a campaign. A campaign can be thought of as a triangle or a 3-legged stool. The 3 elements are the list, the offer, and the presentation. So most folks, I think, when they first start getting into digital marketing, they don't think in terms of campaigns. They just start doing stuff.
Right.
Right? So
that's not a good thing to do.
It's what we call random acts of marketing, right?
Yeah, once in a while you might get lucky, but it's not worth the cost to get lucky.
Right. We want digital marketing to be just as well thought out and deliberate as any marketing effort.
Exactly.
And any marketing effort that is worth its salt is a campaign. And any campaign that is worth its salt has these 3 elements, right? Mm-hmm. A list, an offer, and a presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you have tried dabbling in, and a lot of us have.
Is that a technical term?
Dabbling, yeah. If you have dabbled in digital marketing and not been satisfied with your results, chances are
one of these things are missing.
One of these things was missing, or you didn't think in terms of campaigns at all. You were just sort of mucking around, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're not using money you need for food, clothing, shelter, running your business, right?
Or salaries.
Or paying your people, exactly. Don't gamble with the payroll. So it's fine to experiment, but if you are really doing marketing, you really want to make sure that you're working in campaigns. We also talked last week about strategies, short-term and long-term strategies. Every healthy business has both. Some short-term strategies that are bringing money in the door immediately, and some long-term strategies that are building future business. And in aviation, we have a long cycle, which means things that we are doing today will bring us money 8 months from now, and we have to understand that's the nature of...
Even after you've decided to buy an aircraft, most of the time you can't get it done in less than 6 or 8 weeks.
Right? Exactly.
It's just too much to do.
And nobody makes decisions instantly, where aviation includes a lot of business-to-business situations where there's a lot of people involved in a situation. There's regulations, there's budgets, there's approvals, there's all kinds of things that we have to deal with that make things long-term.
Yep.
So, thing number 1, often we need to think more long-term, and thing number 2 is we need to have a good mix of short-term and long-term. So, we're going to talk about some short-term and long-term digital strategies today.
Okay.
So first, short-term digital strategies. These are the things that work best in the shortest amount of time. And this is often what people look to digital marketing for because it's really good at it if you do it right? So Facebook targeting, social media ads, and we're going to talk more about each of these as we go forward. Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, Periscope, God knows what all the latest thing is, right? The latest thing the kids are using, pay-per-click or PPC or AdWords or whatever you call that.
Yep, however you want to talk about it.
And retargeted ads. So those are the things that manage a short-term return. If you do them correctly, you're going to have a pretty short-term return. They stop working the instant you stop doing them.
Or stop paying.
Exactly. But they do bring money in the door quickly if you do them correctly.
Correct.
Okay. There are some long-term strategies involved with digital marketing, and these are ones that people tend not to think of as much. But they are just as powerful, or even more so.
Exactly.
And you want to have a good mix in your business of short and long-term strategies. So this is one of the things we talk about when we first do a digital consultation with people is let's make sure we've got some short-term and long-term strategies in place for you.
As much as we hate it. Go ahead, hit the button.
Hit the button? Okay.
As much as we hate it, this works.
It does. Search engine optimization is our number one. Well, search engine optimization combined with the content that we optimize, such as this podcast, for example. Mm-hmm. And the way that you may have found this podcast may have been searching for digital marketing strategies, right?
Yeah, I mean, this search engine optimization is painful, tedious. Pick a adjective if you like.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel? This is not your favorite thing, right?
No, but it's necessary.
And it does work.
And it works.
Exactly. Search engine optimization. Actually just talked with a very nice young lady who is doing this for a company right now and is so frustrated because she's working her tail off doing things that worked 6 months ago and they don't work anymore.
Yeah, well, Google changes the way they do things.
Exactly.
And to do search engine optimization correctly, you got to be on top of those changes.
Right. And if search engine optimization or if marketing and digital marketing isn't the only hat you wear, often you'll lose track of an update that Google makes. If you don't keep going to those seminars and keep going to those webinars and keep reading those Google blogs, you're going to miss something. And
we missed something once, and we haven't since because we make it our business not to now.
Right. We do miss things occasionally, but not for long.
Not for long.
Right.
Because we keep reviewing.
Exactly. We spend probably more time and money educating ourselves on search engine optimization than any other topic.
It's disgusting.
Right.
But necessary.
Exactly. Another long-term strategy is building your LinkedIn audience. Mm-hmm. Another long-term strategy, Facebook company page audience, which is a little bit different than your LinkedIn company page or your LinkedIn personal page audience. We'll talk about some of those differences and how not to get those confused like I just did, right? And founding and fostering groups.
Hopefully you're not foundering.
Founding, right? Founding and fostering groups on any social media, the most common being LinkedIn and Facebook. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's go back to our short-term strategies, right?
Yep. And
we're going to talk about Facebook targeting. This is the Facebook Ads Manager, which is like the coolest thing. If we had this 10 years ago when I was working for Wells Fargo or Pearson or any of the other large companies that we were working for, we would not have been spending tens of thousands of dollars on Gartner data and Nielsen data and other kinds of things, because this puts in your hands the kind of power that only very large companies used to have.
This is your entrance and access to big data.
Exactly. So the cool thing about this is you can choose, you can build custom audiences, you can choose the location they're in, down to the zip code, sub-zip codes even, or a 1 mile radius around your organization. You can actually choose people in a building. So, if you're at NBAA and you want to choose people, last year it was in the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. If you only want people in that building, you can do that.
Seriously.
I'm serious. It's actually cool.
Yeah, it's kind of scary too.
Very scary.
From a personal perspective.
They may get people in the parking lot, actually. I'm not sure how they do that or what the mechanism is by which they do that.
But they do it.
Exactly. And then you can choose everyone in this location, or you can choose to narrow it down further. So you may want people within a certain age range. Our ideal customer is 35 plus and usually male, usually college educated. All of those things are things that we can put in here. We can say whether they have a military background. We can say what languages they speak, if any. Other than English, it kind of defaults to English, of course.
Potential reach 186 million?
Yeah. As I change these factors here, that audience details is going to change. So that 186 million, if I say women, that will be divided in half.
Okay, so if we were live, which we are not, this is just a slide you made. Okay.
Exactly. So if we were live, and there's 186 million people in the United States. So this is choosing everybody within the United States. Every selection I make on the left side of the screen is going to reduce that number.
186 million in the U.S. on Facebook.
On Facebook, right.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I think they're all on Facebook.
No.
Not you.
Nope.
They're all but you on Facebook.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Exactly. So every choice that we make is going to narrow down that audience. And then as I make these selections, I can see whether this is, and it's going to move that needle from specific to broad and back again. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like I said, we would have paid a ton of money for this kind of data.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some people still do because they don't understand.
Exactly. So I can bring this audience down to 1,000 if I wanted to, just by making these kinds of selections. Or I can upload an audience of 100, my own audience of 100 different email addresses, and say I only want to target these 100 people.
See, she knows everything.
Oh man, this is scary, right? I can also choose other demographic information like, former military. I can choose, any number of different things. I can choose interests. So, maybe they like the NBAA page. I only want people who are on Facebook and that have liked the NBAA Facebook page. Most of those interests are tied to their behavior on Facebook. Other behaviors like how much time they spend online, how much money they spend, how much money they've spent on their house, what kind of car they drive, any number of things here.
Do they know what color their car is?
I haven't looked for that.
I was kidding.
Okay. I don't know, but it is really frightening, and it's really amazing the way that this can be used. This is like day trading, right? It's really easy to spend a lot of money on Facebook ads because you feel like you have so much control. But if you are not in the business and if you're not on top of it all the time, you could be spending a lot of money without realizing it on an audience that is not likely to.
Yeah, I've seen some of our Facebook bills.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We spend a ton of money on Facebook. But it is all worth it because we have a list, an offer, and a presentation, right?
Precisely.
We've thought it through. Okay. So let's talk about the other toys that people use in the short term. And I call them toys. They're really not. They are actually just like any other tool. It's like using a screwdriver versus a socket wrench. It really depends on the task that you want to accomplish. So the really important thing with this is to know your audience. So for some of these lesser known media like Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Periscope, WhatsApp, and so on, there are small groups of very devoted aviation aficionados of different types on these groups. So, if you were to look up AvGeek, which is a hashtag being just the pound sign that you use in front of a word, making it a more searchable item in some of the social media. If you were to look for AvGeek, which is a phrase that means basically somebody that gets all geeked out about aviation, and aviation aficionado, in other words, you will find 5 million posts right now, 5,800,000. And this is November of 2018. So if you are looking for something that has a lot of interest, there's one. Sometimes if you're looking for 1,000 or less people who are interested in a particular topic, you can find that too. So if we were to put in Mooney, or if we were to put in any particular aircraft type or any particular airport or any number of things, we're going to find an audience. We're likely to find an audience on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah. And they are very visually based. So if your product is about interiors or catering, or you have an FBO or something else that's very visual and very well visually displayed, you're going to want to be on Instagram. Here's something that you can do with Twitter that is really cool, and that is using hashtags for events. A lot of people will do this so that they will find other people that are at a particular event. And if you're looking to grow your audience or grow the number of people, grow your network of people at a particular event, you can do this a few weeks ahead of the event and see who all's going to NBAA. Just look up that hashtag NBAA 2019 for next year, or right. HAI 2019 for next year, and start connecting with people and saying, we're going to be there too. We have an interest in your company because of this. You can send them a direct message via Twitter and set up those appointments ahead of time. And it's a really great way to make those shows a lot better use of your budget, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So all of those tools have different tricks that you can do with them, and depending on what your strategy is, there's a lot of short-term strategies that you can use with them. So pay-per-click. This is another thing that's like day trading is an addiction that we are struggling with some of our clients. We're helping them transfer some of the money that they're spending on pay-per-click into a more long-term strategy because they're spending too much on the short-term strategy that may or may not be appropriate depending on the season, depending on other things.
Yeah, and if whatever you're going to do, if you're using Google AdWords, you need to do significant research on relevancy, cost, and so on, because in some of our research, we've seen keywords that go for $2,700 per click.
Right.
That's $2,700 per click. My God, I can't even. Who would do that?
Right. You better know your numbers if you're spending that much.
You better know your numbers.
You better know your turn rate on each of those clicks, and you better be making a ton of money on every sale.
And you got to have a high-end product.
Right. And if that's all the case and you know what you're doing, then more power to you.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people end up losing a lot of money really quickly on Google AdWords because it seems so easy, and it's only $5 a click or and that's the more common thing in the aviation niches is usually $3, $4, $5 a click. For some of these keywords, but it adds up really quickly, and you can run out your budget pretty fast. And often there are more efficient ways to use that amount of money. What it is good for, and what we highly recommend AdWords and Facebook targeted ads for, is things that are perishable, right? So events, you have to get butts in seats, or your return on investment for that event goes down. So in that case, it's worth the money to do the advertising this way. Empty legs, you got to sell it by a certain date or you don't make any money on it.
Right.
Those are really good reasons to use Google AdWords or Facebook targeted ads and things like that are the short-term strategies. So it is a very powerful tool. It is also a very addictive tool, and it is a lot more complex than it used to be. So some folks that I would say 5 years ago, if you didn't know what you were doing, you could spend an afternoon puttering around in Google AdWords and probably do a pretty good job. Nowadays, that's not necessarily the case because it's gotten a lot more competitive and a lot more complex.
Shoot, I mean, you want $1,500 monthly budget on this, and at $3 a click, you run through that in the first 3 days of the month if you got anybody looking. Right,
exactly. And in some cases, we've found that people have this set wrong, and they have people going to their homepage instead of going to a landing page or something where they can actually buy something. So, they're losing a lot of money because of a wrong setting or something that's not set up correctly.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Retargeted ads. This is also a short-term strategy, and this is great for recapturing interest. We've all walked away from our computer at one time or another and said, what was I doing? Because we get distracted by a phone call or the FAA walking in and, any number of things that we need to take care of. What retargeted ads do is they take those distracted people and represent what they were looking at before. So these are people that have been to your website and then they wander away for whatever reason.
And then they see the ad show up that's on your website.
Yeah, and then they see the ad later when they are on the Wall Street Journal or some other This has the best ROI of any of the short-term strategies because they are people that are already targeted. They've already been to your website. They are most likely to want to do business with you to begin with, right? So this is the way it works. Basically, they come to your site and they leave without buying, right? And then they go off to another website of some sort, and they're going to see a little ad for your website off in the corner and go, wow, that was exactly what I was looking at. That same component or those same pair of shoes. How did they know I was looking at that? Right. And then you click on that and it takes them back to your website in a very convenient way. right?
Yep.
Okay, so retargeted ads, very cool technology, kind of creepy, but from this side of the desk, it looks really cool.
That's right, and it works.
Okay. All right, so those are the short-term strategies. Let's talk about the long-term strategies. So SEO, the downside of SEO is that anything you do for search engine optimization is going to take 90 plus days for full effect.
Yep.
Okay.
Which makes it even more disgusting.
Right. But it is the longest lasting form of digital marketing.
Yes, it is. And we prove that every day.
Right. Some of the content that we wrote in 2010, or even before that, I think 2009, we have articles out there that are still getting hits.
Lots of them.
Right. So it is now 2018. So, almost 10 years later, and we're still realizing benefits from work that we did 10 years ago. There is no other digital media that does that for you.
No.
Okay. This is also our number one strategy, SEO plus content. So you build great content and you help people find it.
Yep.
That's really all that means. And the way that you do that is by optimizing pages with that content on them so that people will find them when they search Google or some other method.
And you have to really be careful to follow the rules to make it work.
Exactly. Right. So, okay, LinkedIn Network. This is a great thing that you can do yourself. SEO, usually you need to seek professional help. It's getting a little bit hard for individual people, especially if that's not the only hat that they wear. LinkedIn is something that anyone can do, even if you only have an hour once a week to build your LinkedIn network. This is great for brokers, consultants, and other people who are selling their own personal services that are connected with their own name and their face, right? Real estate folks, doctors, lawyers, candlestick makers, anyone in the aviation industry who is in a trust-based situation where they are the salesperson or they're selling services that they themselves provide, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to optimize your profile with your keywords. So if I look for aircraft broker in St. Louis, guess who I find? Jeremy Cox, Jet Broker Jeremy. And he's optimized his profile and done a really great job of showing what he does and making sure that he gets found by the people who are looking for what he does, right?
And if you were a member of our marketing lab, you could talk to him and
he'd tell you how to do it.
He'd tell you how to do it.
Exactly. And so building your network is really worth the effort of, finding people at your top 10 most wanted customer companies, finding out who you're connected to or who could introduce you to someone at that company. You can do research on those companies and find out who's in what position or what they're hiring for. That might give you some clues as to what kind of software or hardware they need, or maybe what kind of airplanes they might be looking for, Mm-hmm. So that's there's a lot of information you can get on LinkedIn, and this is something that you can do without any programming skill or without any technical ability, really. LinkedIn is something you can get really good at. Most of LinkedIn is done with your personal profile. A lot of people also set up company pages, and we do advise that you do that. But a lot of people will spend most of their time on those personal pages because that's really the way that LinkedIn was built. Exactly. Facebook is a little bit different. People on Facebook usually use their personal profiles for pictures of their food and pictures of their grandkids and pictures of their dogs and pictures of their babies, which is wonderful. And their cats. Right. Which is great. Most people don't do a whole lot of business via a personal profile on Facebook. That's just kind of the culture that's evolved there. There is some crossover. A lot of our clients are also friends, and I'm connected to their personal profiles on Facebook, and I will like their dogs when I see them, and I will like their babies and their grandchildren and other things. So there is a lot of crossover there, and sometimes I will put like our road trip that we took through the South on our way to NBAA last year. I shared that on my personal profile because my mom wants to know where we've been and what we've been doing. So that is kind of personal, and there is some crossover there. But company pages are really where people expect to see marketing, and they have a much higher tolerance for ads and other things. One thing we really like to do with those ads on Facebook is to make them funny, or to make them interesting, or to make them short. So any of those things that you can do will increase the number of people that click on those ads and things like that. So Facebook company page, you can advertise the heck out of your company on a Facebook company page. Probably don't want to do that on your personal profile if you want to have any friends by the end of the year, right? Okay. Groups. There are lots of groups on social media which I think are wonderful. We've met people that we never would have run across because they're interested in a particular thing that we happen to be interested in. And sometimes that's SEO, nerdy, crazy stuff. Sometimes that's other hobbies that we're involved in. Sometimes those are professional. These are best for customer retention. So there are like Harley Owners groups. There are Mooney groups. There are flight attendant groups. There are pilot, A320 pilot groups. Pilots in Europe, pilots in the US, pilots, everywhere. Female pilots. There's a lot of groups for female pilots where they talk about hotels you shouldn't stay at and, sunscreen that you shouldn't wear. Exactly. As a female pilot, things like that. So what these groups are for really is for customer retention, finding prospects, and other things like that. So this is a group that we host, Aviation Sales and Marketing Leaders. And this is a really fun little group. I have not been as involved with this lately as I should have been because we've been really busy. There's 619 members in this group. We started it a couple of years ago. And you can see that people will share things like tools to monitor ORM, things like that are of interest to sales and marketing people. And people do comment and it's a great way to, if you are the owner of a group, you can also send announcements, which actually sends an email to all of the members of the group. Don't abuse the privilege. But, and we try to keep things on this group fairly agnostic. So we may share our podcasts on it, but we don't usually do direct product pitches, but there are product pitches in our podcasts.
Exactly.
So one step removed from a direct pitch is kind of the way we go with that. So those are some concepts and some strategies that you need to consider if you're looking into digital marketing. The main thing is you want to make sure that there is a strategy and that you are thinking in terms of campaigns and not just doing random acts of marketing, right?
Exactly.
Okay. For more information, there is a digital marketing glossary on our website. And if you look up digital marketing glossary for aviation on Google, you will find it. It's probably the only one there is for digital aviation marketing glossary, those 4 words, in pretty much any order. But that's the thing that you can download and look at some of those terms. Whether you're working with us or if you're trying some things on your own or whatever you're doing, it really helps to have some of those terms defined in a
non-threatening manner.
Yeah. Or at least non-partisan manner, because there are companies that will push one strategy over another. We're pretty agnostic about any particular digital marketing tool. We just want to get the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And we test everything we can before we recommend it.
Yeah, and we want to make sure you've got a really good balance of short-term and long-term strategies as we go forward. So, once again, this episode is brought to you by our digital marketing product. So if you would like some help, you may want to do that with us. We have a minimum 6-month commitment with that, but 6 months with us, you may decide that you find out a lot of things that you didn't know, and make that a whole lot more effective than it used to be. So that also comes with our marketing lab. Everybody who's involved with our digital marketing service also gets our marketing lab free, right? Okay. If you'd like to talk with us about any particular digital marketing situation, strategy, frustration, tangled mess of AdWords, whatever you want to talk about, we do 30-minute free consultation. So just click that button on our website and we would be happy to help untangle the nightmare for you.
Exactly.
Right. Or hopefully talk about it before it becomes a nightmare. That would be better.
That would be much better.
Right. Have a great week. See you next time.
See you next time.